sense. Why am I not getting it? So hopefully we'll make all that clear. And then third, we're going to sort of go through a couple different concepts of sustainability towards the end. So we're looking at ideas that sort of run through all of the student texts, sort of try to bring them all together and look at the world through these different sustainability lenses and see sort of what each one tells us. At the same time, what it sort of leaves out as we go forward. So start with a true or false question. This actually comes off an old exam, only slightly modified. False. Big mountain lions are rare in North America. Actually, that part's true. There are about 30,000. That's also true. Deer are common. There are close to 30 million. That part we can also accept as true. Now, as for the rest of it, mountain lions would be about as common as deer. However, people kill off most of the mountain lions throughout this range. Evaluate that.
High school, I had a chair that was broke. You could lean back way almost flat. Yeah, and then I signed up one day, forgot that, and fell literally out of the chair. So full class.
True or false? True? You're going false? True? All right, battle royale. Why do we think it's true?
Well, I mean, we kill a lot of mountain lions before we also destroyed a lot of their habitat, which is another reason why they're not as common. Like the Florida panthers, they're like going extinct. It's like 100 people a day down in Florida.
And they drive cars, and they put their cars.
They do.
So, all sounds very reasonable. Yeah, Florida panthers endangered. Yes, mountain lions used to live in Ohio. They don't anymore. They don't live in Indiana anymore. They don't live in Kentucky anymore. So you've got a lot of truth going for you. But this guy over here.
Yeah, I'm going with false because if there were to be as many mountain lions as deer, then that wouldn't be sustainable long term. Because if they eat just one a day, then they're going to run out of that really fast.
So maybe like half as common as deer.
Not even half. I'd go with like fourth or less. I mean, they're pretty cryptic anyway. Hard to find when they're not being pushed to extinction.
You're very eager to jump in here. So.
There's a reason why I was asking about generalists, because it doesn't have to be one deer per mountain lion, because there's other large herbivores that were also very common, such as bison and elk that can be found all throughout the United States and high populations. So I think a combination combined it could theoretically.
So are you on team true or team false?
I can see it either way, but I think I'm leaning more towards true.
Okay. Hold on, no, because I got another.
I want to say it's false, simply because deer, so it's like the pyramid on semi-text. Deer to the grass is like the primary food. Deers eat that, a whole bunch of grass, right?
Right.
It's not as much grass, and deer is our grass. So mountain lions have less than
It's gotta be. Like,
less than
how much less?
I don't know.
Ballpark. In a world consisting of just deer and grass and mountain lions?
Just deer, grass, and mountain lions?
Yeah.
10%.
All right. 10%. We've got lots of different views here, and got some nice pieces. So, for example, it's certainly true that mountain lions are generalists, but mountain lions generally do not eat bison.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, bison is a very dangerous animal to try to kill.
It would be.
Yes, for wolves, for mountain lions, and I don't know of any examples of mountain
I think
lions.
it's bison, also goats as well.
Wild goats are also hard to get to by virtue of their habitat. Mountain lions.
Just kidding.
Mountain lions like deer, porcupines, bobcats, bobcats, but white-tailed deer are the mainstay. Whitetails and mule deer, blacktail. Elk not so much, also a very difficult animal to take down. And while it's true that they've been lost from a lot of their habitat, mostly all the areas east of the Rockies and southern Florida, there's still this fundamental issue associated with the difference between a deer and a carnivore like a mountain lion. Because deer are feeding at a lower trophic level, that is, they're directly eating plants, there's going to be, by definition, energetically more deer biomass created. And if you wanted to use sort of a rule of thumb and sort of think, you know, a mountain lion is roughly the same size as a deer, it's an approximation, it's approximately correct. Not entirely correct, but it's approximately correct. You're only going to be able to have a tenth or even less of carnivores as you do of an herbivore base because of trophic level inefficiencies. So sort of work our way up the food chain, there's less and less energy available at each successive trophic level. So it's going to be an important theme today. We'll come back to it over and over again. But sort of keep that in mind. Yes, you know, certainly mountain lions are hunted. They're persecuted in some places. In places where they're hunted, sort of under regulated hunting, there's still considerable debate as to whether or not those types of hunting operations are sustainable. I know in Washington State, where I spent a fair bit of time, there are areas where they are hunted sustainably. Other areas, I would argue they're not. But of course, state agencies push back and tell me to shut up. Regardless, just because they're hunted, they're less common in New York State. That doesn't mean that there can be lots and lots. We suddenly did nationwide mountain lion restoration. Let's start up today with the topic of secondary production. Last time we were looking at net primary productivity or primary production in ecosystems, the amount of energy captured by photosynthesis. And then we sort of looked at net ecosystem productivity, sort of in a broad scheme that sort of incorporated net primary productivity and all additional productivity as well. Today we're going to focus on, we're going to start with net primary productivity, but sort of move on from there and get more into secondary production. So again, just to recap from last time, plants don't use all the energy available to them. So when we have sunlight coming in, as you can see here in this beautiful Sankey diagram, you look at this and say, another Sankey diagram. Good job, recognize it. So most of the solar energy coming into the earth, hitting the earth, does not get absorbed by plants. Some of it gets reflected back by the atmosphere. Some of it gets absorbed by the ground, by the oceans. Only a very small fraction of the solar energy coming in is captured by plants and goes, that helps generate that process of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is actually a very sort of inefficient process given the amount of energy available. However, it's the only game in town. It ends up sort of being the best out there. So about 1% of the energy coming in is captured by photosynthesis. And remember, photosynthesis is not, it's not how plants use energy, it's how plants basically build energy. Photosynthesis is a two-step process, which first involves taking sunlight as an energy source, converting water and carbon dioxide into sugars. So there's the building phase. That's what we sort of associate with in terms of gross primary productivity. But then there's this process of the plant consuming that energy, during which those sugars are broken down by metabolism, during which much of that gross primary productivity is lost due to respiration. As plants release carbon dioxide as those sugars are broken down. And what's left over at the end of it is just a small fraction of that small fraction that goes into net primary productivity. So net primary productivity is often measured in terms of the amount of carbon on a per area basis. So we might look at 3 grams of carbon per square centimeter. Alternatively, it could be represented in terms of energy content, because we're not barbarians here in science class. We don't talk about calories. Instead, we'll talk about joules as a unit of energy. So we will measure net primary productivity in terms of joules. And this can be in terms of per area or per area per unit time. So we can talk about there being 30 joules created per square meter per day, or 3 grams of carbon per square meter per hour. So there's going to be sort of a spatial component, or aerial component, combined with a time component. Now, plants have been so kind to form the base of our food chains globally, for the most part. And because it is the base of the food chain, we can begin to look and see how energy moves from what's captured in net primary productivity up a food chain or up to a higher level in the food pyramid as herbivores end up eating those plants. Herbivore is just a term that's used for a primary consumer. Herbivore, I think, literally means a consumer of herbs or herbaceous materials. And secondary production deals with heterotrophs. It can also include carnivores, the third trophic level, the fourth trophic level. We'll get there in just a little bit. We'll start here with our hungry caterpillar. Eating some plant material, and you'll notice immediately that here we have again a Sankey diagram. And how much energy is the caterpillar gaining from this bit of feed?
200.
How much is it consuming?
200.
200 joules. How do you know that? All right. So in our Sankey diagram at the very top, we've got a representation showing us 200 joules of energy going. So is that caterpillar consuming gross primary productivity, or is it consuming net primary productivity? Uh-oh. Sounds like a battle's brewing here.
Yeah, it's
Well, you originally said it's gross, so tell us why it's not gross.
because gross is what the plant takes in from the sun, bases its respiration.
Okay, so exactly. The gross primary productivity is not available to secondary consumers like herbivores. They're only able to access net primary productivity. So that 200 joules is going to represent some net primary productivity of the plant. Now, in your semi-text, you all had the chance to feed the sheep and trace the pathways of the assimilation pathway and look at assimilation efficiency and the production efficiency. And if we were really sort of drilling down into a proper ecosystems class, we can continue to do that. There's only one type of efficiency that I think is important for exam 3, but also just more important in terms of understanding these ecosystem energetics. And that's called trophic efficiency. Sometimes you'll see this referred to as ecological efficiency. And what it is it's the fraction of plant biomass, at least in this specific case, that's converted into caterpillar biomass. If we had a bird that came along and ate this caterpillar, we could also calculate the trophic efficiency. of what fraction of that caterpillar biomass went on to become bird biomass. So trophic efficiency is fundamentally a measure of how much of the food consumed ends up getting incorporated into your body's cells. So for example, the banana I ate just before I came over to class is not going to all be converted into Tom Rudy cells, right? Some of it's going to get lost in species. Some of it is getting burned off as we speak via cellular respiration. Some of it is going towards growth, mainly in the girth sense. But we can calculate the overall trophic efficiency by looking at the amount of energy that is going into growth relative to the amount consumed. So the trophic efficiency for this particular caterpillar would be what? Is that what? Yeah, 17%. 17%. How did you get there? 33 by 200. So we had growth divided by total available, or total consumed. And that gives us about about 17%. Trophic efficiency, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And in looking at energetics in ecosystems, not energetics within individual systems, energetics within ecosystems, trophic efficiency, or alternatively ecological efficiency, is key to understanding ecosystem energetics. And one of the golden rules we have in ecosystem energetics is every time energy gets transferred from one trophic level to another, from plant to herbivore, from herbivore to carnivore, energy is lost in the process. And we're going to contrast this later in the course with looking at the movement of materials like carbon and nitrogen, which are constantly cycled, not lost. Energy is always lost when transferred from one trophic level to another. And every animal that we see in an ecosystem is fundamentally supported by the net primary productivity in that ecosystem. In the absence of net primary productivity, there's no ecosystem to speak of because there's nothing to do with those entities. All right. Let's talk a little bit about food. You guys stop listening to me and start a side conversation on sort of these topics. What foods do you think have the highest trophic efficiencies, and what foods do you think have the lowest trophic efficiencies? Think about some of the foods you eat. Try to think of them in terms of trophic efficiency.
What do you say?
Hydro? Isn't it plant? Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you compare it to like the closest.
The closest thing to primary consumer.
Yeah.
That gives you a scale. Didn't they say, I thought the city tech said there was stuff that had a similar chemical composition. So like we're not mostly bad at cow carbs, mostly protein and water. So wouldn't protein then have the highest? Different protein sources have the highest growth transmission. I think like you eat a bunch of rice, a lot of that's fiber that we don't digest. Whereas meat, we're going to break down almost all of that.
Yeah, but it's like the cow eats the grass.
Yeah.
And then it uses a lot of the energy.
Yeah, but when we eat it, we don't use most of it.
Yeah, we get that's not kind of plants.
We do. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But that makes sense too when you say.
Yeah.
Why do I think it's plants for some reason? It's like the most closest to the source of energy, the most efficient, right? Because you get the from the sun. Because as the cow eat, I don't know, the bugs eat the plants, the cow eat the bugs, and then it gets reduced. The bulk, right? They get like what 10% of the energy.
Yeah, they get 10%. The plants get 10% of the sun. The
Right.
animal gets 10% of the
Like,
plants.
we have to consume like so many in order to actually live.
All right, good news. Since I do not have a food policy in this class about whether or not you can bring food, we have an opportunity to talk about trophic efficiencies of randomly selected foods taken from students.
Also eating.
Oh, she'll get hers. She'll get hers. Don't worry. All right. So here we have a Rice Krispies treat, which contains chocolate, milk, sugar, Rice Krispies, marshmallow, and butter. Man. All right. So, in order to think about the trophic efficiency of our Rice Krispie treat, we need to sort of break down each one of these. So, chocolates. Okay, so it comes from a plant known as cacao, grown in South America. A lot of cacao is also grown in Africa. Milk. Okay. So, as you know, cows are these amazing devices that convert grass into milk, and some even convert grass into beef. Let's see, sugar from sugar cane. Right. Rice Krispies. Okay, so there's some, at least probably some rice meal associated with the creation of Rice Krispies, so that's grain. Yeah, the Rice Krispie plant. Marshmallow. It used to come from the marshmallow plant.
Oh,
I'm not sure they do anymore. And then butter.
Milk.
You're right. The marshmallow in the rosaceae. You should get up here and teach because you know it's good. And butter. So where does this sit on our? Is this a high trophic efficiency or a low trophic efficiency? Well, what do we mean by high or low? I mean, you're saying low in terms of it's got lots of plants, or you're saying it's low in that it's got some animal products?
It's got a lot of animal products. It's really processed.
We're going to not think about the processing just yet. Just think in terms of the ingredients, the plant animal ingredients. Should we scold her for eating a very inefficient snack there? And what do we have here? Apples. You like being healthy? Do you like eating relatively low on the in terms of trophic efficiencies? Of course. So apples are not, it's not like the apple tree is eating birds that eat caterpillars that eat plants. It is the plant itself. Alright, so we got sort of a higher, or a lower trophic efficiency over here, a higher trophic efficiency over here. Who can think of some really examples of high, or I should say, very low trophic efficiency plants? Or I'm sorry, low trophic efficiency foods. Yes. Steak. All right. So, where does steak come from? Cows. Okay, the steak animal, right? Which eats. And what do cows eat? Cows. Okay. So, if you're eating a steak, you're eating on the third trophic level because you're eating a second trophic trophic level animal that got its food originally from. Right? Can someone do better than steak? Yes.
It doesn't look at what trophic level is the next. It looks at all the trophic levels?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, yes.
You eat dolphin.
Who eats dolphin?
People in China.
People in China eat dolphin. Okay. Or tuna. Tuna, we can sort of put our fingers in all of it, but let's go with tuna. Okay, so what do tuna eat?
I know tuna tend to eat smaller fish.
Okay, and what does smaller fish eat?
Plankton.
It's the skin.
Okay, so if we have tuna eating smaller fish, eating plankton, we're now at least the third trophic level, possibly the fourth.
Yes.
All right, can you beat that?
Humans.
Humans. I don't know if you were to eat, if you were to engage in cannibalism and eat vegetarians.
Well, I don't really feel full after eating a human, so that's my guess, honestly. Yeah. You feel full? Not really, actually. I'm vegetarian.
Over here.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we eat meat,
Yes.
it's mostly protein. Or we're going to use that protein because our body's mostly made out of protein.
Right.
So doesn't it have a higher transmission efficiency or whatever the term is because it's more similar to our body composition? Whereas if we eat plants, it's fiber, we won't digest all of it.
Okay, so as we sort of start breaking down the nutrition, if you're eating a lot of fiber in your diet, the fiber is going to pass through undigested. A lot of animal protein is considered high quality protein in that when you eat it, you have a slightly higher assimilation efficiency than you would just in terms of the energetics. So we're trying to average over, all the fats, all the carbohydrates, all the proteins. But we're gonna get to the issue of protein in just a little bit. However, just because we're eating, if you were to eat a strictly protein-based diet, you wouldn't gain a lot of energy efficiency associated with it because you're still going to be losing most of that energy in the process of metabolism. All right, as long as you're breathing, okay, which is indicating respiration, that is going to indicate that you're losing some of the energy associated with that food that you're eating.
Okay.
All right. All right.
That's, yeah, because I thought fat has more energy. Yes. No.
All right, so one of the arguments that you hear associated with vegetarianism is this idea that by eating lower on the food chain, just plants, you end up eating a more energetically efficient diet, and that sort of does some land sparing for, there's less land that we have to have available for cows and whatnot because those lands can be put in crops. Right? In terms of sort of a very first level analysis, without sort of digging too deep into it, it actually is true. But if you start looking at how that actually plays out, there's lots of land that is grazed, particularly in the western United States. It's too dry for crop agriculture. The argument sort of begins to break down a little bit. So it's one of those things that is true in a general sense, but not globally true. Good question.
So I was kind of wondering where on the trophic level do super processed foods like Tostitos, pizza rolls,
right. We'll get to that in just a minute. We won't get specifically to pizza rolls, but we will get to the question of energy inputs associated with production. All right. You had a question?
I just would say that dinner can't get any more like.
You're still eating on the third
Doesn't
row.
sit a little bit more, but not like that's your whole dinner.
Alright, so some of the foods in the human diets, we already talked about people eating cattle. We talked about pork or poultry. And then down here we have farmed Arctic char. Someone heard of char? It's a fish, it's a trout. Cold water trout. Obviously not good for Alaska. So this is something called a feed conversion ratio, and it basically indicates how much kilogram of food you need to give in order to create a kilogram of animal feed. So we can see with something like the Arctic char, it takes about just 1.2 kilograms of feed to create a kilogram of char. You're probably wondering why this is a comma and not like a decimal place. Decimal place is sort of like a US thing. Other places in the world, like in Canada, they'll use commas in lieu of decimals. No, you're weird. They do it normal. Right? Poultry is a little bit less efficient, so it takes about 2 kilograms of feed to produce a kilogram of poultry. Pork is, and pigs are even a little bit more inefficient than that. And then finally, in our scheme here, we've got cattle sort of at the high end, taking about 8 kilograms of feed in order to produce 1 kilogram of steak or ground round or ground chuck. Or marrow. So even though we have this general idea of a base of a trophic level and that energy is lost as you go up to the next level, even if you're just going up one level, you can get quite a range of variation with some of these various foods. Again, low for this aquatic organism, relatively high for cattle, intermediate for pork and poultry. Now getting to the issue of pizza rolls, and you'll be able to see this. This is already up on Pilot, so you can explore this in detail should you choose to. What we have here is the amount of energy input. So sort of the total joules going in order to produce a joule of protein, sort of coming out the other side. So sort of at the very top, we have Gracilaria, which is a traditional plant product from the West Indies, which most of you have probably never heard of. Vegetable crops typically take about 2 to 4 joules of energy input to produce a single joule of energy for food. If you want to think of this in terms of calories, then that should translate roughly approximately. So it takes 2 to 4 calories of energy input to get a calorie of protein coming out the other side. And let's see, we can let's go down to beef farming and look at free-range beef. That's going to take about 10 joules of energy going in to produce a joule of beef protein. And let's see, as we go down, if we're doing trout farming, that's taking about 24 joules of energy to produce 1 joule of trout protein. Atlantic salmon fisheries, about 29 joules to produce 1 joule. And then sort of once we get down to the bottom here, we get into some pretty wild numbers. One of the more energy intensive foods in terms of protein production out there is shrimp for all kinds of reasons. So semi-intensive shrimp farming is taking about 40 joules of energy to produce 1 joule of shrimp protein. And then lobster fisheries, taking nearly 200 joules of energy to produce 1 joule of consumable lobster protein. Any thoughts as to why that might be? Why is lobster so energy intensive? Yeah.
The species of lobster that we usually use really cold water, so we have to use chillers to get it down. I guess this really answered the question. Never mind.
Not quite.
Yeah.
Growth in joules goes towards an exoskeleton.
It's not the energetics associated with the lobsters themselves. Yeah.
Because they put up a fight.
They don't put up a fight. Catching lobsters is actually really easy. Okay, that's part of it. So you have to keep them alive. A lot of lobsters are transported live, especially for seafood restaurants. And keeping fish alive, or crustaceans alive, is energy intensive. But what else?
Are lobsters from like the deeper part of the
Yes.
ocean? So like it takes energy to get out there, like it would take more for you to catch lobster than it would for you to like go to the coast and catch the crab.
Right, so you're not like sort of wading out and grabbing some lobsters, right? How are you getting out there? You're taking a boat, all right? And is your boat solar powered or is it like a sailboat? No, you've got fossil fuels. Taking your boat on out, dropping your lobster traps off, and having to come back and having to go back out and check your lobster traps. And a lot of the way lobster fishing works is you go out and you check your traps and maybe 5 or 10% have lobsters in it. So every day you're checking a trap line, seeing if you caught any lobsters in the last 24 hours. So there's a lot of energy that just gets burned in boating around to go collect those lobsters. Which certainly accounts for why it ends up being a very energy intensive food, or higher than you would think for something relatively low in the grand scheme of things in terms of its current position. Any questions on trophic efficiency? We can do relatively simple calculations for the total consumed, or we can sort of really start drilling down and getting into the nitty-gritty of trophic efficiencies like we did here with looking at how much energy it actually does take to produce a joule of protein. For your processed foods, can you sort of extrapolate out like the amount of energy input going into factory to assemble ingredients, whatnot? So yes, your pizza rolls. No, you don't lie to me, man. Your pizza rolls.
14.
All right. So you made a pizza roll. It's going to be more energy intensive than if you ate something else. Black